call the meeting to order, or the Properties Committee. I'd like to call a roll to see who's here. Barb Sloan,
Present.
Nancy, Marley,
Yes.
Sherry.
Yes, present.
All right. Marshall, Bob Hartley.
I'm here.
Okay. So we're missing Nancy and Marshall. We only have 8 committee members now. Jerry Connor resigned from the board, and also the Properties Committee. And today we're missing John Nichols, who is having some type of surgery, and we wish John the best. So I believe with 5 members, we have a quorum. I'd like to move on to the approval of the minutes from December 3rd. Do we have any updates, changes, corrections? Otherwise, we'll move them as approved.
I'd like to make a motion that they be approved.
All right, thank you. Okay. All in favor? Aye.
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 Aye. Okay. Okay, moving on to Katie, you have housekeeping.
Thanks, Roberta. Yeah, this is Katie. I know we're all working virtually. It sounds like everyone had success connecting, so good job. Just a few things on how to use Join Me. There's 2 ways to connect to the audio. You can use your phone and then mute yourself and unmute yourself using your phone, or you can use computer audio. To see the controls on your Join Me, if it's not already showing at the top, you should be able to hover up there near the search bar, and it should bring up your options. The first one is going to be muting. It's a volume button. If you're using computer audio, that's where you would mute yourself. The second one is the chat feature. You can chat the entire group, which I don't recommend because of open meetings law requirements. But you can chat me. I'm the RCSDW icon. Send me a message if you're having any AV problems at all. The next one is just the presentation mode. Leave those alone. The person icon next just shows you who's online. You'll notice it looks like there's 17 members. Some are on phone and computer, so they might count twice. So don't take that number too seriously. And then the tools icon at the far right gives you some options for your video if you want to use that, or your sound. We don't use video of individuals speaking for these meetings just because of the streaming load. So with that, if just common courtesy, make sure you keep yourself muted both on your computer and on your phone, and only unmute the one you're going to speak on. If you have any questions, chat me, or you can just email me. Actually, I'm at my desk. And lastly, Roberta, if there are any questions from the community, they can email them to questions@suncitywest.com. So at the end of each item, if there are any questions from the public, I will let you know. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Did any members show up? Is Nancy on? Or Marshall? All right. Moving on to section 4.01, the update on the memorials, plaques, and naming rights. I think we're finally at the end of the tunnel on this one. Been going on for several months. Excuse me. Paperwork here.
Roberta,
Yes.
this is Bill Schwinn.
Yes.
If I may, I just want to, again, thank everyone that served on the subcommittee that was assisting us in trying to put together some guidelines on how we deal with donations, memorializations, and naming. And just real briefly, I think what's been established here now for you to review is basically a very systematic and consistent approach when dealing with memorializations and donor recognition and naming proposals. A set of guidelines has been addressed to address these types of things. When it comes to naming facilities and or related features, we're basically going to route those through club committees, starting with chartered clubs, and then it gets advanced to properties committee with any kind of recommendations then forwarding to the general manager and the governing board. We're providing 30-day feedback opportunities when it comes to public notification, and then ultimately the rec center governing board for final approval. Some naming rights and renaming qualifications have been established. There's a group of 5 of those that are there for you to review. Moving on to the renaming of buildings and structures, we basically feel that that's strongly discouraged. However, we do have names of facilities that potentially could change due to termination of advertising contracts and the like. So those will all be reviewed at that time. And then again, we look at the naming procedures that were listed above, those 5 criteria, and moving along that way. When it comes to plaques, markers, and memorials regarding individual chartered clubs located within individual club rooms, the responsibility there belongs to the individual clubs, working with staff as far as anything needing to be installed, hung, or those kinds of things when it comes to club needs and that type of thing. When it comes to plaques and markers and signs and memorials, we would really like to emphasize the fact that we do have a memorial garden established within Beardsley Park, and we would like to push most, if not all, of those types of requests in that direction. I will say in the last month or so that we've been working on this particular program, we've met again with the Rotary Club, and they have taken it upon themselves to reactivate their campaign when it comes to the Memorial Garden at Beardsley Park. And they did have an initial sales campaign over the last month, and they delivered to us yesterday 14 new plaques to be installed there. And so we as the association do benefit by recouping 50% of the revenue that Rotary Club generates from that. And so I think they've dropped off about 7 bricks and another 7 of the larger style plaques that Todd Patty and his crew will be installing very shortly. And I know that there are others in the queue, so to speak, being sent over to Rotary for approval and creation, and we should be getting our hands on those probably within another couple of weeks as well. So that's a good thing. Again, when it comes to donations, we've kind of created some guidelines that are consistent within this mission. Clubs can accept donations appropriate for their club activities or their crafting. There's now a CR form that can be produced requiring any kind of donations that are requiring installation from our staff. That goes through the CR process. And other donations that are greater than $10,000 in value go to the appropriate committees, off to the general manager, and then final acceptance of those types of donations that are significant dollars over to the rec board for approval. So it's a very concise and consistent, I think, layout as far as the guidelines go for accepting these types of donations. It's been edited and re-edited several times, as you know, and I think we're in a good spot now, trying to move this thing forward for the Properties Committee to review and then off to the general, the governing board for final approval. Maybe a sentence or two within our policies that can be crafted to basically steer people back to these guidelines when these occurrences come forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Do we have any comments from the committee members?
Yes.
This is
Barb
Bob.
Sloan.
I do have, this is Bob.
Go
I do
ahead.
have a question.
All right, go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, I do have a question on the Beardsley Park Memorial, where we're talking about the plaques and the markers. Is it starts to fill up? Is there a timeline on this, or are we just going to wait till it just we have no more room?
Somebody from staff, can they answer that?
Yeah, Roberta, it's Russ. We got a lot of bricks to sell before that thing ever gets full. That's a long, long way down the road. If
Okay.
you walked it several times, you just count the bricks from start to finish. And, you know, everybody likes to buy the stuff in the center, but once that's filled out, it'll branch out from there. So all bricks are accounted for.
Okay, that's good.
Jerry, did you have a question?
No, Barb Sloan here. I have a question.
Oh, Barb, okay.
So Bill, a question about things that were in process before this all stopped to write a policy. Specific, the clock at Palm Ridge that's already up. What happens in that process? What happens to memorial plaques that are already out there that didn't fall in line with these guidelines? What happens next?
Barb, thank you. Within this policy, I'm skimming through it. There's only 4 pages here, but it does talk about life expectancy of these items that are currently there. And so when an item, starts showing signs of deterioration, I'm reading off of page 3 at the moment, under the plaques, markers, and memorials, 3rd paragraph. So when things start showing signs of deterioration, requiring maintenance, or no longer appropriate to use, it will be removed. But
Yeah, I get that, Bill. I read that part, but let's take, for example, the clock at Palm Ridge that's up there, that's brand new, that got put up there with an understanding that this was going to go through this memorialization process. Does this have to now go back through a specific club? Or
no,
is
ma'am,
this?
I'd say at this point, if it's hung and installed, it's there.
Okay, but that was only part 1, was to hang and install it. If you look at that original request for that project, the next was to do a memorial plaque up there, and I think a photograph, I don't remember. So the rec center has accepted the clock, but has not finished the second part of the CR request on that for the naming rights. Is anybody going to go back to the donor and give them guidelines as to what happens next, or what happens next?
I would at this point recommend that the naming of the facilities and the placement of that plaque, we use these guidelines. And so having the swim club, the senior swim club, I think, present to chartered clubs and going back through this process, I think, would be a wise step.
Okay. I will pass that on to them.
Thank you.
Any other comments from anybody? Do we want to, well, we've got part of this, by having these guidelines, it does affect FAO2 and FA12 policies. I have combined the 2 into the FAO2 and propose eliminating 12, and under new FAO2, we would have the donations and the naming rights, and then the process has been removed from both the FAO2 and FA12 and put here that they're to refer to these guidelines. And since our board docs does not have a specific area for guidelines or processes, we're going to keep this document with the general manager, and somebody can request a copy from that office. Any discussion?
I think that's a good way to handle it.
All right. Do we have a motion to adopt the new FA02 and eliminate FA12?
This is Barb Sloan. I make the motion to combine them.
All right, and who seconds?
I do, Bob Hartley.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right. We'll move on now to, there is no pickleball presentation that has been postponed until February. They're going to make their presentation to chartered clubs first and then come to properties.
Roberta, Barb Sloan here. Can I ask a question on that one?
Sure.
I thought there was a timeline established by the rec center as to when capital projects needed to be submitted for review, to go through the whole process of property review, finance, clubs, all that kind of stuff. I am concerned, how did this one fall in well beyond that time cutoff?
This is Bob Hartley. I talked to Ann Brown, who's in charge of the finance committee, and she didn't have it exactly on the calendar, but if she recollects that they do not get the stuff from properties until the February 16th meeting of budget. So that means that our meeting in February would still put it within line to go to the budget committee.
Do we
Right,
know when
and-
this, Barb Sloan here, do we know when this project actually was presented though? I thought there was a November 1 or something like that cutoff date for any capital requests.
That's out of the committees. That's not necessarily clubs. And it should have gone to clubs first before it came to properties.
Yes.
And so that process has been updated to, it is going to charter clubs before it comes to us next month.
Okay.
Carl.
Yeah, but just a minute, this is Bob again. Barb does have a very good question. I thought the cutoff was like December 1st. And I thought at that time, Carl said he still had not heard anything from Pickleball.
Okay, this is Carl. Do you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so folks, this is Pickleball bringing their expansion presentation to the staff and committees for the first time. And this is to open up the first level of discussion of any form of planning. What needs to be accomplished if there is approval for this concept, this budget is only for design documents. So they are going through the proper steps for hitting all of the club committees, all the committees of the governing board. And as far as what I have placed in the budget is an estimated dollar amount for design that has been presented to the CFO and general manager. So everything is going at the correct schedule at this point.
Barb Sloan
Okay.
here, Carl. So this means that the overall project dollar amount that they put on their paperwork, that has no impact on this year's capital budget, only the design part.
Yes, and let me just clarify, it is a significant design dollar amount that's been placed as a placeholder in the budget. So that is the importance of making sure that
If that dollar amount gets approved when the budget is ready for its approval cycle in the April, May, and June months, and the public forums, that we have everything in alignment. And so chartered clubs is first, then properties will get the same presentation, and then at some point, budget and finance will get a presentation from the club.
So Barb
Okay,
Sloan
Carl.
here again. So this would be the first time that the property committee is hearing about this placeholder?
That would be correct.
And Roberta, Barb Sloan here again. You feel that that's in keeping with the guidelines of capital proposal?
It would be. Remember, the guidelines are for turning dollar amounts into the budget. So that a dollar amount has been proposed to the budget, given to the CFO by the appropriate timeline. That dollar amount can be erased or negated by these conversations that come to the property, chartered clubs, budget and finance. You give your recommendations to the governing board, and then the governing board makes a decision on whether them funds stay in the budget and get approved towards the end of the year. And then
Okay,
next year.
Okay, Barb Sloan here. I guess I had a different understanding of the timeline is all. And so
not all things work perfectly in a timeline because of July 1st is the start of a new year. People are gone throughout the summer months. This conversation started with staff and other key people from the club throughout the summer months and is just gradually growing. It is a very large discussion point, so it has taken more time than some other projects might.
No, I understand. It just in that Barb Sloan again, in a tense environment that we are in right now with capital spending and other expenditures and closures and stuff, I think we need to be really careful how these kind of things roll out, that we dot the I's and cross the T's. And there's a buzz in the community about this already, that pickleball isn't playing by the rules. And that is a concern, because it immediately sets them up for a less than favorable response within committees. If it appears that, I hate to use the word favoritism, but I will use the word favoritism, seems to be extended towards pickleball as it pertains to the rules. It's the appearance, Carl. It's nothing short of the appearance of a timeline that doesn't seem to have been used appropriately. I mean, these are already really strong words, but I have a concern about the rollout of this.
I will allow Bill Schwinn to comment to any appearance questions, but I will tell you that as far as all of our policies go, the club has been very appropriate over 2 years of presenting information on growth, their desires, and it has been basically a year and a half of reviewing that. They've given us all the appropriate information in the timeframes that we've requested it. We've done some research for them to see if their ideas are even possible, and we've given them results. Now, from that results, they have come up with a presentation they're ready to give you, and your comments, I'm certain, will be heard at that point. But they are following all the steps and procedures appropriately, I promise you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is Bob, and I have to agree with Barb, and I just want to make sure that it's done the right way. And I'll take Carl's word for it, but I was under the assumption that they had to have it in by December 1st.
If any approvals for any stage of this project, first design from the current budget that we're asking, that we're providing a placeholder for design costs only, it wouldn't be until another whole year later before the discussion of actually approval of any project costs goes into a budget. So everything, this is all about planning right now, and your comments as committees.
Okay, so when we look at this $1 million figure that they have there, so we're just looking at them getting a proposal as to what it's going to cost.
This is true, and remember, you are Properties Committee, respectfully, your questions are about the facility, the infrastructure that it impacts, the layout, the design options that staff has been able to present them as opportunities for governing board approval. Your department, your committee it's not really about the finances, so please don't get caught up in the weeds.
Well, I'm not getting caught up in that. All I was trying to clarify is that this is not a vote for the completion of the entire project. This is just to get there and to find out what it's going to cost.
That is correct.
Okay, but isn't another part of ours is to figure out whether it's something that we feel that it's worth the investment to do.
That stage would be two parts. That this year about the design conversation and cost associated with just designing such an idea, and then the next year, whatever committee membership is involved there, would be about the appropriation of full funding for a project if it gained traction.
Okay.
And Bob and Barb, if I might, Roberta, just comment briefly on that. There's a couple of words that were thrown out that I just kind of want to circle and or highlight. One, everything Carl said is completely accurate. We hope to be as transparent as we know how when it comes to these types of things. So, you know, what is said and rumored about oftentimes just need a little bit of edit. But I think the one word that I heard that we really need to emphasize, and that is the word planning. And so as we sit here today, there has not been any discussion. Well, there has been discussion. There has been no recommendation set forth by anyone on staff or the governing board relative to even the location, relative to where these potential new pickleball courts could be. There are options. And with that, those options require some work to be done as far as determining a construction cost estimate. And so those are the things that we're trying to iron out with pickleball as them as a club and us as staff looking at these facilities as to where potentially these new courts could possibly go. But again, the emphasis is really in a staged process, because if we don't have good numbers and the proper engineering and planning to move this project forward, there's really no way to get a project approved if you do not know what this thing is going to cost you to build and to maintain. So that's the process that we're kind of in right now, working with the pickleball group. They have a couple of ideas that they'd like to see happen, as do staff, and there are costs associated with that. So what we're trying to do is just get over the first hurdle with this fiscal year and helping the club determine what this thing possibly is going to cost them as a club, if they're going to contribute dollars to help get this thing built, or what this is going to cost us as the association to construct. That's really where we're at today.
Okay.
Bill, Barb Sloan here. Bill, I appreciate your explanation on that, and it does clarify for me a little bit more processes of where we are. I think the hiccup on this one is the rollout on how the property committee got the CR form and all the explanation, and there was nothing within that said that this is, you know, we're in the early stages of planning or processing on any of this paperwork that came out to the property committee. And so one can only assume that the ball is way further down the field than what you're explaining, what you and Carl are explaining. So I do appreciate your clarification on that. But I think we need to do a better job on a project of this magnitude of rolling it out for a committee decision, that it is purely concept We're still in concept stage. We're still feeling this thing out, and do a better job of that.
Point taken.
All right. We're going to have the presentation next month. Let's have further discussion on this at that time. And Katie, did we get any comments from people out in the audience?
No, Roberta, nothing.
Okay, so let's move on to the property report. We'll start with 5.01. Carl?
Yes, Roberta, thank you very much. I will also be sharing Russ's portion of this today, okay?
Okay.
All right, start off with capital projects update, R.H. Johnson. Library roof restoration project. We are power washing and parapet wall restoration complete. The roof restoration portion of repairs and coating is in process, and I expect it to be done the middle of next week. The metal shop addition, I'd like to give you guys an update today. Plans and engineering documents are being submitted to county for first review next week. And that process takes about 8 to 12 weeks. And then once I have all first review comments from county, I will be able to assemble a clear set of architectural plans with any corrections, and then send it out for bid so that the organization knows the final bidder's proposals on this project cost. Over at Kuntz, we are currently doing the Kuntz interior room lighting conversion. All the rooms' lighting is being converted to LED fixtures, and I anticipate that project being done by the end of this week. Over to facilities maintenance. Would you like me to keep going?
Yes, please.
Facilities maintenance update. Audio and visual upgrades are underway. Lecture hall facilities maintenance has removed the old projectors and equipment. They're doing patching and painting. That is in progress. Built and installed columns for the wire chase and video camera mounting. Electrical install for lecture hall AV project is also in progress. White Tie is scheduled to be back at Palm Ridge on Tuesday and should complete all the audio portion of that upgrade. All that will be left would be the video portion, including projectors and mounts for cameras. White Tie will be starting Beardsley pool sound system upgrade on Wednesday, and if they finish, they will move over to the lecture hall on Thursday. The social hall closet being closed in and sliding doors are being installed, in progress. We discussed that from our properties tours. Per state boiler inspection, inspector, Beardsley pump room, e-stop buttons installed for every exit door has been completed. And the state inspector will be out on Friday. We will spend the day with him going through all of our pools and spa boilers. That is the end of both mine and Russ's report for the month.
Do we have any questions for Carl? All right, moving on. Do we have any committee member comments?
Yeah, this is Bob. I have one.
Go ahead.
My comment is I'd like to know about the Lions Club mailbox outside on R.H. Johnson, outside the store on the
Oh, for the
curbside.
glasses? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's on are we sponsored with Lions Club, and are we going to continue to sponsor with everybody that wants to do something?
I guess this is for Bill.
Yeah, I guess whoever can answer my question. First off, I'd like to know what it's there for, and
Been there for years, Bob.
okay, well, it has been.
Yeah, it's been there for a long time.
Oh, okay, well then I must have missed it.
Yeah,
That
I've
shows
been
how much
putting glasses in
attention
there
I
for
pay.
years. I put in all my old glasses in there.
Okay, so that's what it's for.
Yes,
Okay, all right, that's what I wanted to know, what it was for.
okay. Do we have any other committee member comments? Okay. Katie, do we have any remote guest comments?
No comments from the public. We did have between 9 and 11 people watching live on YouTube. I'm sure that'll go up in the reviews after we stop streaming though.
All right,
So,
thank you.
Roberta, this is Sherry.
Yes, yes, Sherry.
I will do your minutes.
All right,
since
thank you
Nancy
very
did
much. So hearing no further business, I'll adjourn the meeting. Our next meeting is on February 4th. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are adjourned.